Hey, hey, what up, peeps? There we go. We got it. Holy smokes. It's been a while. Let's hope this goes for a still. Let's try to make this the thumbnail. Hold it. Let's hope that's one of the options. Anyway, now for our regular scheduled program of opening the video so we can get to the chat. So just bear with me. Riveting, I know. I'm not really sure why this has happened. So my microphone, I'm not sure what's happened to my mic. So I'm just using my laptop mic. So hopefully it's okay and you can still hear me. I plugged in my Zoom and for some reason it wasn't turning on and I'm not quite sure why. I don't really have the patience right now to deal with it. So hopefully this will do. Okay. There we go. Anyway, here we are. Thanks very much for tuning in and watching in the future, as you all do. I appreciate it. So a few things to talk about today, and I think I might just get right into the biggest one. Well, maybe not the biggest one, but one that I'm surprisingly excited about. So I have a small, very small stack of books. Oh shoot. I didn't have the volume. Darn it, I saw that cheap today. Anyway, sorry, distracted. I'll talk about that in a minute. I have a very small stack of books that I've wanted to get CGC'd for quite a while. Very, very small. For the most part, I think I've talked about it before. For the most part, it's been stuff that means something to me. It's not getting them slabbed to kind of, flip them or anything. It was just they were books that were interesting to me, and there was maybe one or two like Saga #1, Monstrous #1, which I know can fetch a couple of bucks, get them slabbed, and then have them down the line. I don't know. I mean, I bought them both at cover price, so it's not much of a loss if I invest in getting them graded and actually slabbed to, I don't know what, if they keep rising in price, maybe someday I can sell them off or sell them off and give the money to my kids. I'm not sure what. There was no real intention. I've never been a person that has really, I have a very passing interest in flipping, as I do with a lot of things. I've got passing interest in a lot of things. I do watch guys like an ETA Nick and stuff, because I do find some of that interesting. It's not my style of comics, but it's not a criticism on theirs either. Everybody can do whatever the hell they want. I find some of it interesting, especially with the grading and things like that. So I was watching a video of Nick's, and he had mentioned that there was a book that was going to start seeing had the potential to see some kind of growth, and I wasn't aware of it. So I went and looked on eBay just to see what kind of prices some of the raw copies were getting, and I was a little surprised. It's not that they're not going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but there's some that are kind of over $100 anyway. And I bought it years ago for, I don't know, I want to say about $12 to $15. It wasn't that much. It was under $20. So I figured, holy crap, I've still got that book. It's actually, it had made it to the chopping block and then made it back into the boxes, made it to the chopping block, made it back into the boxes a couple of times when I was kind of doing some sales, because I knew I could probably sell them as like a lot. and I'm sort of glad that I never did. I do find the character interesting. I did like the stories when I read them. It's just when I'm going through these kind of modes of getting rid of stuff, this was just one of them that was on its way out the door. So I figured, why not? Let's try and see what happens. Let's send it in to get graded. So there's a couple of guys here in town through this Winnipeg Facebook, Winnipeg Comic Addicts Facebook, that do kind of group submissions. And DaCosta tweeting strange tales. That's hilarious. There's a couple of guys that do group CGC submissions. I figured I'd give it a shot. Both of them also do pressing as well. In my mind, to show how good of a grader I am, which is not, I was thinking around a 7 to an 8 or 7.5 to an 8. So I passed it off to a guy on the group. He gave it a press, sent it in for grading, and it came back as a 7.0 white pages. And it is, in fact, Strange Tales 169, Brother Voodoo, the first appearance of Brother Voodoo. So there's a look at that label. Surprisingly excited about it. I was interested in it, but actually getting the book in my hand, it's kind of amazing. Is it something I'm going to do with a million comics? Hell no, because it's not the cheapest thing to do, even when you do a group submission. Will I do some more in the future? For sure I will, absolutely. Like I said, there's a few that I do want to get graded, and I think are worth it. Again, I'm not flipping books. I'm not buying stuff online to get graded and flip them to make a bunch of money. I find just that idea so tiring. Like, I don't know how these guys who do it successfully, I don't know how they keep up with it. Like, it really must be a full-time job, because that takes a lot of energy. So anyway, that said, here it is, the Comic Crack very first CGC slabbed book. Strange Tales 169, first appearance of Brother Voodoo. There's a look at the back there too. It's a really nice book. There's no doubt about it. It's just crazy. It feels, I can see the appeal. I can definitely see the appeal. He was kind enough. I didn't bug him too much in this kind of month and a half or however long it's been, maybe 2 months. Anyway, I didn't bug him too much with updates. I did kind of message him a couple of times. Oh, so what's going on? What's the word? What's happening? So yeah, very cool. I'm, like I said, surprisingly excited about that. So on to comics that I read. When we were out, we had some time to kill, and at Galaxy, they have bins and bins of graphic novels and stuff for dirt cheap. So I've seen it there before. I Am Legion for $8, Humanoids hardcover. So I figured I'd pick that up. I've got a couple of the single issues, and I remember liking them when I read them. So this one, I don't know if it's more than one volume or if it is just the one volume, but I figured I'd give it a try and pick up the whole thing for $8. And I was looking up on the shelves on my spinner rack, because I've got the Essential Doctor Strange Volume 1. They had Volume 2 there for, I think it was like $4 or $6 or something, for really, really cheap. And I'm contemplating going back and getting it, because it does have the Doctor Strange issue that I'm missing, Strange Tales 169, because I think this first volume just collects the Strange Tales before he went off on his own. So I thought I had the book because I recognized the cover, and now I'm looking up on the spinner rack and I actually don't have it. So that was the only thing I picked up there. And the reason why we were out is I was going to pick up that CGC book, and then through Facebook, through the marketplace, there was a guy that was selling, I think he's had them offered before. Running out of room in my little space here. I think he's had them on offer before, but they were just a little too expensive. There's only 2 out of the 3 that really interest me. but he was selling them the last time they popped up here recently. He had them for $5 a piece. So I kind of couldn't resist. $5 a piece, $15 is a hell of a good price considering. And I mean, this other one, it's not that it's horrible. It's just not something that I'm as into. But buying it as a lot as I did, I don't mind. So it's DC Comics Cover Girls. Really oversized, and just even flipping through it, it might not be too bad. You know, a bunch of collections of covers. If anybody is there, I'm not seeing anything. The chat is open. It's not even telling me if anybody is currently watching, which very well could be because nobody is currently watching. But so I'm not sure if you are there and you're typing stuff in and I'm not responding to you. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not seeing anything. They're in really, really nice shape. I think they'll be interesting to go through for sure. This one might be fun to sit and flip through with Lillian. But like I said, that wasn't the main reason. That specific book wasn't why I bought it. It was for these next two, the third one specifically. Then here we go. We've got the comic book, the one essential guide for comic book fans everywhere. It's the front cover of that, and this one's again a hardcover. I mean, that's a beefy volume. I haven't even flipped through these yet. We just haven't had a chance. It's been a bit of a busy day. Special sexy lady friend is back at work, so it's me and Lily for the last couple of weeks here. And between now that soccer has started up and there's still got Taekwondo on the go, it feels like every day is just that little bit busier. Yeah, this one looks pretty great. Lots of text, grading, assessing, and collecting. Well, there you go. So yeah, another fun one to flip through, I think. Oh, nice. Look at those. Those are great. Cool. And then finally, from this batch of 3 is this one, Comics and Illustrated History. And this is the one that I was most interested in. They talk about comics from not only North America, but all around the world. And I believe over 250 specially commissioned photographs, covers every country with an indigenous comic industry, the history of the comic in all its forms, comic cult figures from Ali Sloper to the Incredible Hulk. In Comics and Illustrated History, collectors and experts Alan and Laurel Clark consider the past, present, and future of the comic from an international perspective, from Hogarth's prints via the superhero to the graphic novel. So there you go, another hardcover. Yeah, this one I'm really excited about because of that international focus. So I think this one's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, it was worth it to pick up all 3 just to get the one. Oh yeah, look at this. This is great. There we go. That's this. These are the sections. This is the stuff I'm looking for sure. European comics. European, I'm a peon. Awesome. Let's see what else is in here. Yeah, then superhero, Casper, Mad, Crime, EC stuff. Oh, sweet. Yeah. I love this. I love this already. This is a hit for sure. There we go. So that's a look at those 3 that I picked up today. And then the other thing that I was going to talk about, well, 2 other things actually. Seth came through, so Drawn and Quarterly put on a little tour as he came around for the Collected Clyde Fans book that Drawn and Quarterly has just released. I mean, it was amazing. Amazingly enough, they kicked off the tour here in Winnipeg. So Lillian and I went down to see him, and they showed a little bit of animation. Uh, he gave a little bit of a talk where he kind of read a piece along with some slides, and then there was kind of an interview and a quick question and answer before everybody got in line, and you could spend a few minutes, like 5 minutes with them, kind of thing, just chatting and getting something signed. I got 2 things signed. We bought the Clyde fans collected book, and I'll show you those in a second. It was really, really great. I've seen Chester Brown, I've seen Seth, and I jokingly said to him, now I've got to see his Joe Match, and he's like, yeah, good luck with that. And I'm like, yeah, you don't think he's ever going to do anything again? He's like, that friend that you have that's a junkie who's always saying he's going to clean up. Joe was kind of like that. He's always swearing that he's going to get back in and do some comics, and he never does, and I don't think he ever will. I think that he did something back in 2014, from what I remember reading online. But yeah, I mean, he's done other gigs. I think he was doing coloring for some more mainstream comics for a while, kind of on a commission basis, I guess. I don't know if he was kind of part of a regular roster of people, but I know he was doing some of that kind of gigs before. But seeing Seth just talk about his approach to comics and his thoughts on comics was great. He really does approach things from more of just a writer, just a classic like novelist kind of thing. It just so happens that his novels are graphic in nature, and their pictures. Sorry, just making sure the monitor is on for Lily upstairs there. And he fully engaged with his kind of nostalgia that runs through all of his comics, and which was great to hear. I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of nostalgia with his work, but I don't think and he kind of said the same thing, that his nostalgia isn't due to the fact of I want those times back. It's just really a moment in time that just resonates with him. He was talking a little bit about the afterlife, which was kind of funny, because he says he really has 2 sides of his personality, which he says is really illustrated well with the brothers and Clyde fans. One is really outgoing and wants to get out there and meet people and make deals, and the other one just wants to be left alone and kind of shut away. And he said that's really how I am as a person. I do love coming on these kind of events. I do love meeting the fans, and I love meeting people, and I love getting out there. But there's another part of me that loves being by myself and sitting and just drawing. And I just find it interesting with a guy like this who's so deep into it. He's got a few things that he ends up doing that really make a more complete picture. He's getting into kind of doing porcelain furniture and things with an artist that he's befriended, whose name I can't remember right now. And he does a journal, but a graphic novel journal just for himself, not something that he ever had the intention of writing and putting out in any sort of published volumes or anything. It's just for himself. And he started to realize how difficult it was to do these little drawings all the time when he was trying to do this journal. So we had a series of stamps made, a stamp made of him walking down the street, a stamp made of him sitting at a desk, so he could just do these panels with these rubber stamps and then write in his day, which I absolutely love that idea. I think it's an amazing idea. And of course, he talked about his city of Dominion and how that all started. He said it's at 100 buildings, and that's where it is. He said that's because it's a nice round number, but also I don't have any more space for anything else, so I've cut myself off with the intention years ago. I remember hearing about it many, many years ago that it was a piece. It does tour, but he started this project to really flesh out a city so he could do a series of graphic novels based on that city. And again, the realism that it gives any of his work when there's actual models that he can say, Clyde fans had a store that was right around the corner from 5th Street where the theater was. It gives it, he can always make those references. I love that idea that much thought has gone into this, and he's telling all these stories that's based in this absolute world that he's made up. You know, there's some things that are grabbed from reality. Clyde Fans actually was a store in Toronto, which I actually didn't know until he was giving this talk. It was a shop in Toronto, and there's a photo of him in front of it in that book as well too. Yeah, so it was great. I loved going to see Chester Brown. It was entertaining. He's an interesting guy. Seth, I think, was a little more, for me personally. Uh, I really, really liked it. Like, it really resonated with me. It was really great to sit and chat with him too. He's an extremely friendly guy, really easy to talk to. I didn't realize that he was a big Robert Crumb fan and that Robert Crumb was actually a pretty big influence on him. So we had a little brief chat about underground comics and how that kind of doesn't resonate with people as much today due to kind of the subject matter and all that. And we were both in agreement that we can absolutely see why it would be problematic for some people, but we still really like them. You know what I mean? So really, really, really pleasant guy. And he gets full props for who would you like this made out to? And I said Terrence, and he said, how do you spell that? Terence. And I was like, yes, right there. That's it. In the history of my life with my name, 99% of the time, people spell it wrong. It's not the end of the world, but it just happens. So it was great to have someone actually recite it to me and spell it correctly. So I did talk about this before, Seth's Dominion. This is the book / documentary. I think I actually bought it at McNally, and it's something that he's not as happy with. He had said, he jokingly said that, well, maybe half a joke, said that oh, hey, maybe here's a sample of the stamps. I'll show this in 1 second. Yeah, no, that's got to be. Those are the stamps for sure. Said that the director kind of fooled him. He said it was not going to take very long and ended up taking years. The animated piece that they showed was the director taking some of his work and animating it. He's not as happy with it. He doesn't feel like it's his style, but he, you know, he's fine with it ultimately. So here you go. I didn't actually realize this. There you go. So there's the stamps basically. So for example, like just looking at these 3 panels right here, that's an unbelievable idea. I really, really like that idea. So the other amazing thing, of course, when you go to meet these artists is just seeing them do their little sketches, and the ease. And even as he's doing the sketch, the order that he's drawing stuff in, I was like, at first I was kind of like, what the hell is this? Plus you're looking at it upside down. And then when it all pieces together, really amazing. So I love that one. Very, very nice of him. And then I will show you. So they've done a beautiful job with this Clyde Fans book. Now let's just get some perspective. So there's just a regular comic. So it's a little bit shorter. It's actually the same exact width as just a regular comic. So just to give you a bit of perspective, the front and the back. He also ended up talking about some of his design work, and he said something that doesn't surprise me. He said cartooning is the same as it's ever been. There's no money in comics. You don't make any money. He's like, I'm at this point now where, because of this name that I've created for myself and this body of work, when I do other gigs like my design work and things, I can charge that little bit more because you're getting me to do something. So that does hold a bit of weight. He's like, that's where I make my money, all that freelance type of work that he does on the side. But he said, doing comics, it's the same as it's ever been, and it'll never change. You don't make anything. And then there's the bottom and the top, and then Clyde Fans Index. So it's a work that can never tell if I'm looking backwards, forwards in this thing because it tends to flip sometimes. It's a work that spans over, I think he said 20 years. And even he was saying when he looks through this body of work, he can really see his style shift through that time. The early stuff he feels is a lot looser artistically because that's what he was going for at the time. He liked the idea of this very loose style, and he feels that it's really tightened up over the years. And he wanted the whole packaging to be kind of like a building. You pull it out of here and you got the storefront with the window, and you're really just entering this building and entering the world of Clyde Fans. So in this one, I'll just show you this. For this book, I asked if he could sign this too because I bought it there on the spot. And he said, you want me to make it out to you again? I said, actually, could you make it out to Lillian? So he was nice enough to make it out to my daughter. There we go, something like that. And he said, I won't draw a crusty old man. We'll draw something a little prettier in this one. So that was really, really nice. Lily got a kick out of it. When we got home, she showed her mom, Mom, look, this is my book. I was like, well, can Dad read it first before you get it? So that'll be a nice kind of thing for her. And another thing that he was talking about was when you do a collection like this, when you are kind of self-publishing or working with more independent publishers, you can do all sorts of stuff that you won't. Like, for example, doing 20 pages or so of illustration before you get to the actual story or the title page. You know, you can't do that in the Marvel and DC where you have 22 pages to get your story out and you've just got to jump right into it. That was just a sample of some of them there. So yeah, so this is kind of first look. So 20 years ago, Seth, and then we'll kind of flip halfway through. And I mean, it's there's really no one else that's got a style like him. Yeah, I don't even know what to say without just kind of gushing about it, which is kind of whatever. I really, really like his stuff. I've been a fan for a long time, and yeah, it was great. Really, really great. He talked a little bit about him, Chester, and Joe, because of course that was the inevitable question from somebody in the audience. How are those guys doing? Do you still see them? And he's like, yeah, we still do see each other, nowhere near as much as we used to. And he says that that relationship between the three of them really was an education for him. He said, forget about art school. That friendship with those two guys, we pushed each other, and he said we weren't easy on each other's work. We really set these goals and kind of pushed each other to get better. And one of the examples he used was if someone gets up out of bed in the morning, turns off the alarm clock, is going to go brush their teeth to get ready from work, we wanted to see that alarm, see the person in bed, see the alarm get shut off, see them walking across the room to the bathroom, see them brushing their teeth, going downstairs. Like, instead of jumping to the alarm goes off, then they're eating their breakfast, or then they're right in their car, they really pushed each other to, let's tell a story like this. Let's really spell it out in these panels, and let's really set a slow pace. And I think with a guy like Seth, that's been the most apparent. There's moments in Chester Brown's work, I'm thinking kind of like the Playboy and that sort of thing, or I Never Liked You. There are kind of these more quieter moments in there for sure of contemplation and things like that, and moving through a world where you're kind of seeing these moments. But I think for Seth, it's his pace is just a real kind of steady, for the most part, tempered kind of pace. So that was really great to hear. Just again, the importance of having these people in your kind of inner circle who you really resonate with and who are kind of on a similar wavelength and can push each other to be even better than they already were. Because all three of them started off really talented. And the one thing that he said, when we first got together, Chester was and still is the most talented and the smartest out of all three of us. He's an unbelievable talent, and he had it right from day one. So he really spoke highly of Chester and his skills as an artist and a storyteller, which was also very touching. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know how far. I believe it's just a Canadian tour. I don't know if they went to the States. Maybe they did go to the States. Maybe I saw something recently they were going to New York. I don't remember. Anyway, if you do get a chance, highly, highly recommend it to go and sit and talk to him and listen to him and get a chance to meet him. Fantastic experience. And Lily did wonderfully because there were definitely moments where she was bored to tears, but she behaved really nicely and she could walk around the bookstore while I was there, that sort of thing. So the final thing I wanted to talk about was a project I've been thinking about for I don't know how long. Years and years and years ago, I heard of people. I think it might have even been Robin Bougie on an old uh, message board back in, oh, I don't know, 2000, 2001, 2002. I don't know, somewhere around there when we lived in Ontario, talking about binding some mini-series of comics together. And it's always something that stuck with me about how great that would be to get kind of a nice hardcover done of some of these mini-series that I really like. And then it came up on the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Jim Rugg did it himself, and he showed some of the examples, and they showed a video where he talked about the process. And after watching that, he left some links to both videos and some writing. I went and just devoured this stuff, and I'm like, forget it, I'm trying this. I gotta try this myself. So I tried it, and like my grading skills, where I was off, my binding skills are still off. I would say I did a probably I'm being generous. I was 70% there. In reality, maybe like 65. Um, but the thing I'm keeping in mind is this is the first time. It took me a long time. There was some mistakes made on along the way. I know that Sergeant America was talking about a video. I didn't do videos as I was doing this one. I have another mini series that I want to bind. I'm going to do videos with that one. I wanted to get one out of the way where I could completely shit the bed, not on camera. And then once I kind of tweaked it a little bit and had a chance to sit with it, then I'll do another video where I kind of do some of the, I'll just kind of show a few of the steps and piecemeal it together. So I figured I would do the last one from Vertigo. It's a 6-issue mini series, and there you go, hardcover. I didn't go nuts on the design. I just found some images that I liked. I didn't want to spend too much time. I mean, I did piece some of this together, especially this. These were from 2 separate sections, and I just put them together. I thought they worked pretty well. This image was a standalone that I found online, so I didn't worry too much about going full bore into spending days and days trying to design a front and back cover. I just picked images that I thought looked good, just so I could get on with actually doing the book. So right there, you can see issue number 1. It's yeah. I mean, I fucked up basically. Does it still sit open really nicely? It really does. The one thing that I didn't fuck up was sewing them all together. That And it's funny because I thought that part would be the most difficult, and it actually is the easiest of the whole process, sewing the actual comics together. The one thing that I didn't do, and I since found some videos afterwards where they suggested pulling out the staples. I didn't pull out the staples. I left them in just to make the sewing a little bit easier. The next one that I'm going to do Slash Maraud. I'm probably going to do Slash Maraud, which is one of the ones that Jim did as well too. I enjoyed that series. If you go back in my archives, you can see me and LaRasa talking about it. I'm going to pull out the staples and kind of do it that way. Where the problems came in were sizing the boards for the hardcover. I also copied Jim. He was saying that a lot of the materials can be pretty expensive. So what he did is he went and bought some kids' books for kind of 99 cents a piece, peeled off the covers, and recycled those boards from that. I did the same thing. It was a bit of a fucking nightmare, and I think honestly I would just shell out the money and try to get the actual materials. It was a nightmare getting the paper off of some of them. There was one cover. There was one cover where it came off really, really nicely with minimal effort, and that was the first one that I did. I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. This will be easy. I think I bought 4 books total just so I could build up some supplies because I knew that I was going to make a mistake. And the other 3 were a fucking nightmare. There's still a book and a half up there where I have a little bit of the paper peeled off, but it's attached so well that I actually can't lift it. I'm having a hell of a time. So I think that would be tip number 1. Just buy the materials. We have an artist emporium here in town, and that's where I managed to get like the boning tool, the bone tool, and I bought some glue there. I bought the tape for the edges, for the spine rather, to reinforce the spine. I went to a fabric shop that's right by my daughter's daycare to buy some kind of cheesecloth-ish type of material to reinforce afterwards. And then the only other issue I had was actually printing off the cover. I don't have a printer that will hold paper big enough to do it in one piece, so I had to do it in 2 pieces. The first version that I did, I thought I cut the covers big enough. They were actually way too short. Even this one is a bit too short. You can see it kind of the book poking out of the side or the end here. So I could still go a little bigger. And I've just got to figure out how to put it together better. It's not horrible. I didn't do the kind of end fabric here, and I'm going to try that next time too, to kind of give it that finished look instead of seeing that gap. So there's things to learn for sure. It was a hell of a lot of fun though. It really, really was fun. I really, really enjoyed the whole process. The other thing that I found is that honestly, when you're gluing stuff up, just take your time. Just if it needs to sit for 24 hours, just let it sit for 24 hours. And I had a bunch of heavy books that I would put on top of it at various stages and just let it sit so it would dry out flat. With the first one, I didn't let it dry long enough and I didn't put enough books on it. So when I took it off, the cover was a little warped. The front and back covers, they kind of lifted a little bit because they started to curl because I didn't have enough weight and I didn't let it sit long enough. With this one, I let it sit at least 24 hours in this final stage, probably a little bit more. And it looks fairly straight. That isn't too bad. Go for it. There's videos all over YouTube. There's a ton of them on YouTube. And they take you step by step through the process. If you've ever thought about attempting it, again, with the understanding that this isn't a one-night project, this is a project that'll take you about a week, especially for the first one. I'm hoping the next one will go a little faster now that I have some of the basics down. I'm going to head back out again at some point over the next week to see if I can hunt down some of the materials locally. There's places online where you can buy a lot of the materials for binding. I don't necessarily want to go online. The prices that I've seen, they haven't been the cheapest. And then, of course, for us here in Canada, it's just the shipping just ends up kicking you in the ass. So I'm going to do a little more digging locally. There's a couple of other craft stores in town here. I went to Michael's, didn't have much success at Michael's, to be honest. But there's a couple of other craft stores here in town that I'm going to go and just hunt through and see if there's anything there that I can use. I had another idea for a project too with this binding. I was going to do kind of like a little golden book type of thing of Mark Bell's art, comic strips rather, from that Exclaim newspaper. I talked about it a long time ago. I had this idea that it might be fun to do, you know, literally that kind of golden spine, get some of his images on that spine. That's going to be a project for down the line. The ideas that I have for it are way too advanced for the stage that I'm at right now with binding. But I do intend to stick with this. It would be great to get a system down and to just do this with some of the miniseries. I would say a 6-issue miniseries is the minimum, just to give you even a 6-issue miniseries doesn't give you a lot to work with as far as just the sheer volume, the density. So I would say I wouldn't bind anything less than 6 issues. A 12-issue series I would like to try next, actually. Maybe after Slasher Maraud, maybe I'll try a 12-issue series. I mean, I've got a lot of miniseries, and it would be kind of cool to have a couple of these hand-bound ones up on my shelves, especially for books that I really like. Really, really like this series. So, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, it does. Again, that was the big thing, that it sits, that at least I could sit and read it and not have any gutter loss, and still be able to read it fully without feeling I had to be super precious about it. And I mean, I don't have to be precious with this. It opens up all the way, you know. Lots and lots of fun. What else do I got for you? Some music. Got a bunch of tapes from Astral Spirits, kind of jazz, improv. Really, really fun going through these tapes. If you're interested in hearing some stuff, tune into the Dead Air. You can check out the Dead Air show that I do on UMFM, where I played a couple of these. I think it was 2 weeks ago now. That's about it, I think. Thanks very much for those of you who may or may not be out there. Like I said, if you have been trying to communicate with me, I'm not seeing anything. But if you are watching, I do appreciate it. Leave a message, leave a comment. And thanks very much, everybody. Have a good night. And I'm hoping to get to another Eclipse series right away. I'm knee deep into Camwai, and I'm about 16 issues into the 35-issue run. I don't have the whole run yet. It's blowing my mind at how good it is. It's an incredibly well done series. So I think that's going to be, even if I don't end up getting the rest of the issues, I do want to talk about it while it's still fresh in my mind. So I think that'll be the next Eclipse Comics series. The next video, it'll just be a focus on that, and we'll talk a little bit about Eclipse's role in kind of being one of the people that brought manga over to a North American audience. Again, there's a lot of this was the first series. Camwai apparently was, it's often said, one of, and I think there was a couple of spots where it said that it was the first series that's been brought over. I don't know, but either way, it's early stages where manga was being introduced to a North American audience, and it's phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. There's a couple of issues specifically that we'll focus on, and we'll have a really good look at them, because the storytelling is like nothing I've really experienced before. And when we talk about pacing with Seth, the pacing in this book is incredible, and just with manga in general. If I haven't mentioned it already, Manben, just have a look for that on Google. Just type in Manben watch Manben for free online or something like that, and some episodes should come up that were subtitled. Really incredible stuff to see these manga artists, or mangaka, I think is how you say it, uh, in their world and doing their art. It gives you a new appreciation when you do visit some of the books of the work that went into it. Um, Very, very impressive. So stick around for that video. I don't know, probably sometime next week or maybe this weekend. We'll see how it goes. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you.